age, primitive.
For productivity to a state that you find horrific.
Though your mind is somewhere else. Your ass ain't.
Like it's an impossible task, but it's one completely worthy of it.
Whoa.
Hey yo, what's up guys, John Boogle here. It's here, we got my top favorite albums of the year so far. I'm gonna do a bit of a quicker format in this video, and then when it comes around for the end of the year, I'll go do the original format that I've been doing. Now first, before we get into the list, this is not my best albums of the year list, this is my most favorite, but do let me know if you want me to do a best albums of the year type of list. But yeah, without further ado, let's get into it because there's a lot to get through here. At the bottom of my most favorites list, it's Ethel Cain's album, Preacher's Daughter. It's a nice blend of singer-songwriter mixed with pop and post-rock. There's lots of stunning moments throughout the track list, but it's not as consistent as I would like. Next up we got 1-800-PAIN's Their Money Is Your Money. It is an ear-blasting, ear-bleeding and industrial hip-hop album with some club elements in the mix as well. Definitely a very interesting listen, so I do recommend it, and watch your volume when you do listen to this album because it is ear-bleeding loud. Next up we got the legendary Black Star coming back finally with an album. While it's not the best effort from Mos Def and Talib on the collaboration here, but I would say it's still worth a listen, especially with Madlib on the production. Next up we got the highly anticipated Earl comeback with his album Sick. It's a jazz rap / abstract hip hop album. It's not his best, but it's still a good project. Also, that Arm & Hammer feature is amazing. Next up we got the return collaboration between Currency and the legendary Alchemist with Continuance, a jazz rap / southern hip hop album. Very lush, very psychedelic. Alchemist continuing his insane run. Next up we got the Ultimate King Gizzard album, Omnium Gatherum. This is basically a compilation. It's one of the most exciting albums they've dropped recently, fusing a lot of genres and taking the boundaries a bit further here on this album. Next up we got Boldy James coming with a quick return album with Killing Nothing. Fresh off Bo Jackson and Super Tecmo Bo. I wasn't expecting anything at all, or if there was something to come, I was expecting it to be a cool down. But Real Badman and Boldy James on this collaboration here is real great, and I do like it better than the previous collaboration in 2020. Next up we got Rosalia with Moto Mommy. It's an art pop / Latin electronic album. There are some real great standout tracks on here, some of my favorites out of the whole year, and it's real forward thinking. Next up we got The Weeknd with Dawn FM. Continuing off that 80s vibe that After Hours gave, we get yet another synth heavy and luscious album, but this time a lot more cohesive and straightforward. Next up we got Beach House with Once Twice Melody. Now this is a contender for one of their best, if not their best album yet. It's a real nice dream pop / psychedelic / ethereal synth pop album. Highly recommend this one, you might like it way more than I do. Next up we got Benny the Butcher's long awaited Tana Talk 4. Coming off the exciting Burden of Proof, expectations were high for Benny the Butcher, and he met those expectations here and possibly surpassed them. Next up we got The Long Road North by Cult of Luna. This is a sludge metal / post-rock album. It is my introduction album to this band, so I'm definitely gonna go back and go through the discog after this one. But really great atmosphere, really strong line of tracks, and amazing production. Next up we got the Radiohead, well, almost Radiohead. We got The Smile with A Light for Attracting Attention. Tom York and Johnny Greenwood is here with Tom Skinner, dropping a really great art rock album here. Some real stunning and beautiful tracks in there, as well as those hard post-punk slash math rock pieces. Very surprising release this one is, and one to look out for. Next up we got Lupe Fiasco's highly anticipated drill music in Zion. It's a conscious hip-hop slash jazz rap album, and I think it's one of Lupe's best efforts in the recent years. Really great track list, really great production, backed with of course Lupe's incredible talent, as we all know. It is a real nice listen, and it is a modern take on lots of abstract themes and concepts. Next up we got Charlotte and Bolus with Topical Dancer. This is a real groovy art pop slash house album. It's probably one of the best dance albums of the year so far. The production is fantastic while also having some real conscious themes thrown in the album as well, but it's not too overbearing to take away from the amazing groove this album brings. Next up we have the long awaited comeback from gospel with The Loser. They're not quite taking that crazy route, but there are some tracks that are still really insane. It's a lot more post-hardcore and prog rock, but there's still those amazing moments from the previous album. It's really great, and it's up there. Next up we got the ultimate psychedelic trip with Cities of Eve with Man Plays the Horn. This is an experimental hip-hop album slash abstract hip-hop with some crazy psychedelic samples in production. It's really like an Earl Sweatshirt meeting MF Doom. It's just super atmospheric and super trippy, filled with a lot of great sample usage and a lot of great production. Next up we got Saba with A Few Good Things. This is his most mature album and probably his best yet. It's a conscious hip-hop album with some neo-soul and trap thrown in there as well at some points, backed with a real simple but very beautiful concept with beautiful production to back it up. Only thing holding me back from putting this up higher on the list is some of the performances on the album, but if you can get past that, there are some real great standout tracks on this one. Next up we got Big Thief's mega album here with Dragon New War Mountain, I Believe in You. It's an indie slash folk rock slash alt album. There's a lot going on here and a lot to unpack, as well as it's a very well written and well produced album. On top of that, it's real soothing and peaceful. Definitely one of the best albums of the year so far. Next up we got Pusha T's long awaited return with It's Almost Dry. Of course it's a southern hip hop album. Pusha sticks to what he does best, and he does it real great on this album here. While it can't possibly be as consistent as Daytona, the highs on this album reach way higher than ever before, with the amazing production backed with Kanye and Pharrell on it, and Pusha just going off with the amazing wordplays and fresh deliveries. Next up we got Conway the Machine's highly anticipated follow-up, God Don't Make Mistakes. This is probably one of the best hip-hop albums of the year, if not the best. Conway comes back to prove that he is really on the top of his game right here, backed with some real great production on this one and amazing features as well. Conway just wraps up probably his best album yet. Next up we got Haru Nemuri with SHUNKA RYOUGEN. The fantastic J-rock slash J-hip-hop artist is back here with her finally second studio album, and it is a really good one. Taking more of an art pop slash art rock side on this one, being a little more experimental and out there. It's a real bold and passionate album, and it's one of my favorites of the year by far. Next up we got the amazing ELUCID with I Told Bessie. This is an experimental hip-hop slash abstract hip-hop album. Heavy emphasis on that abstract hip-hop album genre there. Being the other half of Arm & Hammer, this album is of course packed with real dense abstract themes and backed with phenomenal production. ELUCID dropped his best album yet with this one, and some of my most favorite songs of the year are off this album. The ridiculous pen game of Arm & Hammer continues. Next up we got Perfume Genius coming back with a real great album, Ugly Season. This is an art pop slash experimental album. Perfume Genius decides to take a huge, wild, different direction with this one, creating a extremely psychedelic, ambient, and surreal experience. It's very abstract for a Perfume Genius album, and I do like how bold it is in the experimental side, with some mind-blowingly beautiful performances and instrumental passages on here, and just absolutely stunning progressions. The only thing holding me back from giving this album a higher score or being higher up on my list as the most favorites is some of the tracks' progressions do tend to stale out and leaves you with an unfulfilling type of feeling most of the times. But other than that, Some of the moments on here is magical. Next up we got Denzel Curry's album, Melt My Eyes, See Your Future. Now this is contender for Denzel's best album yet, and that's kind of crazy to say with how consistent he's been through his discography. It's a conscious hip hop / jazz rap album. It's not as insane as Taboo, but it is very amazing, with some of the best production backed on a Denzel album yet, taking his pen game to the next level on this album as well with some crazy bars and wordplays. It is really his most matured album and it's one of the best. Next up we got Kendrick Lamar's Mr. Morale and the Big Steppers. The long awaited comeback from Kendrick Lamar is here, and he did not disappoint one bit, with this being one of the most instrumentally rich albums he's done in a while, backed up with his insane storytelling, back at it again with the amazing production. Like United in Grief is up there with one of my favorite Kendrick album openers ever, and we all know how great Kendrick's album openers are. Wesley's Theory is probably the best album opener of all time. It's tracks like Worldwide Steppers, Father Time, Auntie Diaries, Mother I Sober that are on that TPAP or nearing that TPAP level. A lot of the concepts here are also very similar to the concepts explored on Denzel's album, but of course it's both through different personal points of views. Fantastic comeback. Next up we got Black Country New Road's very exciting second studio album, Ants From Up There. Now with the very exciting new core of rock bands from the UK that came last year, with Black Country New Road and Black Midi and Squid. After their amazing debut, Black Country New Road was set to release their second album and expectations were high. And let's just say they broke those expectations here and dropped one of the most amazing albums of the year. Now this is not my absolute most favorite album of the year, but I can confidently say that this is probably one of the best albums of the year, if not the best. It's an art rock / indie rock album with some post-rock elements in there as well. It's very progressive and it's extremely satisfying and mind-blowing at the same time. Definitely a must-listen album this year, and I can see it becoming a classic as the years go by. Absolutely stunning. Next up we got Billy Woods with Aethiopes, dropping what might be his best album yet, which is a super abstract experimental hip-hop album. Preservation is here on the production and it is mind-blowing, and we all know Billy Woods being the other half of Arm & Hammer, just extremely intelligent and packed with endless concepts and intricate abstract references. Billy Woods is probably one of the most underrated artists ever in this genre. It's just unmatched pen game and pure intelligence. The features on here is amazing as well. It is definitely one of the best albums of the year and probably the best hip-hop album of the year. Don't sleep on Billy Woods. Next up we got Soul Glow's album, Diaspora Problems. Now this is probably one of the most insane albums I've listened to this year. It's a hardcore punk / rap rock / noise rock album with just ridiculous deliveries and crazy flows, backed with some of the best production I've heard this year yet. It's just packed with relentless energy. And if you know me, you know that my top 3 favorite genres of all time is industrial, hip-hop, and punk. And this has definitely satisfied my taste for one of the best albums of the year and the best hardcore punk album of the year. It is one of my absolute favorites, and I'm just excited to dive back into this album every single time, and it has revived a new love for the genre for me as well. And last but not least, with my absolute most favorite album of the year, you guessed it, as of right now, the king that takes the throne is Black Midi's third studio album, Hellfire. Now, while I haven't had much time with this album yet at all, after a couple listens, I can cement this as my favorite album of the year so far. Is it the best? I don't know the answer to that question yet. Is it better than Cavalcade? I still don't know the answer to that question yet either. But what I do know is this is for damn sure my favorite album of the year so far. It's an avant-garde / prog rock album with, of course, jazz rock elements there as well, with some brutal prog as well. It's Black Midi mastering their sound here, and it is quite literally controlled chaos with one of the most stacked track lists of the year I've seen so far, with some of my most favorite songs of the year so far as well. Black Midi proves to be one of the most exciting bands in the modern era. But yeah, that is it. Of course, I would like to go into a lot more detail and talk about each album, but that would take a long time, and we'll save that for the end of the year list. But hey, look at that, Black Midi once again at the #1 spot for me halfway through the year. Let's see if something will come to take it down, because last year it was By the Time I Get to Phoenix. Maybe that JPEG Mafia and Danny Brown collab album will be able to take it down. But yeah, the whole list will be in the description down below, of course. Drop a like if you enjoyed this video, let me know what you thought about these albums if you have listened to some of them, and if you haven't, make sure to check some of them out. I do recommend them. Link to join the Discord is down below as well, of course. And yeah, see you at the end of the year for my favorite albums of the year list. 2022 is looking pretty great so far, while not as stacked as 2021. Still really great. But yeah, it's been John Boogle, and see ya.